I'm Tandy Culpepper. In this edition of the Hollywood Beat, she's an actress, a director, a screenwriter, and author, and now she's in the cast of The Color Purple. Here's my interview with Ava Arthur. Hello, Ava. It's so good for you to join me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
All right. Well, let's get started by giving a shout out to your publicist at Press Pass LA, because Jennifer and Demetria sent me all this biographical stuff on you and talking points, and I generally have to do so much research for these interviews. And all I did was go on your website and read a few things there, and I feel as if I know you already.
Thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. It's always,
No?
you trust your representatives, but it's always very helpful to hear these kind of things. I love them. And thank you for that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate them.
How did you hook up with Press Pass LA?
That's so interesting. You would ask me. I believe it was my manager. Also, shout out to my manager, Shay. He's incredible. I believe it was Shay that made the introduction with us. And we started this conversation a long time ago. Of course, we've been on strike for the majority of the
Oh,
year.
yes.
So, there was not really much publicity that I could do. But knowing that I had a number of big projects coming on the horizon, I'm so grateful to them. We stayed in conversation, and now here we are.
Well, the strike also affected my ability to get actors and screenwriters to do interviews. So I'm so glad for my own sake that that's all over with. Okay, let's talk about The Color Purple.
Please.
How did you get cast in that?
I had a series of auditions for The Color Purple. And, when you are a professional actor, of course, you get auditions all the time. And you develop a very thick skin so that you're not crushed every time you don't get something, because I'm sure there's a lot of rejection in this business. So as much as I would have, dreamed and paid somebody to be in the movie, I had a series of auditions and I just released it.
For
And
whom
hope
did you audition?
I went through the Tesley agency. Yes.
Oh,
The
okay.
casting directors. Yes. My agency, Stewart Talent, they sent me the auditions and that's how I got them. Yeah.
Well, someone said one time that you can't be told yes if you're not willing to be told no.
Thank you for that. You know what? I should write that down. That is good.
Isn't it good? It's so true.
Yeah.
I
Well, it
had to
is.
I had to audition for so many gigs, and I was told no, or I got hired, and then I would get fired because they thought I didn't turn out to be what they were looking for in the end. And I was like, I was upfront about everything, and you should have known you were getting a brown suit, even if you wanted the blue suit, because I was a brown suit. But that's the way it goes in this business, right?
Yes, yes. I'm glad you understand. I mean, you just really have to take your chances. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I've heard a lot of no's over the course of the last however many years. So I think, similarly for this too, I'm like, fingers crossed, mom, please say a prayer for me. But then you just release it because you have to. So I was just minding my business. I was in Ghana with my family and I got the call from my agent.
You
That's
were
the end
in
of it.
Ghana,
I was in Ghana at the time. Yes.
and then
Yes.
what was that about?
Well, that's where I'm from. So I go home every chance I get. I
I
love
didn't
being.
know that.
Yes, yes, yes. That's where I'm from. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I read something about you being from Ghana, but I also read something about that you were born in Washington, D.C., and the two things didn't jive. Were you born in Ghana?
I was not. So it's so interesting. I feel like I like to coin the term bicultural. That's how I feel because my parents, I have older sisters, and two of my older sisters were born in Ghana. My parents were actually in the United States at the time when my mom gave birth. So I was
Oh,
born an American citizen. Yeah. And then we immediately went back to Ghana, where I spent the first, wow, 7 years of my life. And then we came back to the United States. Now, my family culturally in the home, we are very Ghanaian. I grew up in a very Ghanaian household in the middle of Colorado.
huh.
So, so I feel so fortunate. It's like I got the best of both worlds, and I'm so grateful to them for, teaching us our language and our food. And I really got a chance to hold on to my culture and their culture and the culture of my ancestors. And similarly, I'm very much American because, of course, I grew up here. I went to public school my whole life. I went to college in Colorado, moved to LA, got the LA experience. So, yeah, I hold both very heavily and equally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Vice President Harris made a three-nation tour in Africa, and one of the countries she went to, was it not Ghana?
Yes, it was Ghana. She was actually there with my sister, Bosma St. John.
Really?
Yes, 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 yes. Bosma spent some time with her there. I think she was part of the facilitation process. So, I mean, we were thrilled, of course. That is a
Wow.
really big deal for her to come out. And so that was big news in the country, big news for every Ghanaian person. Just so excited. I'm so glad that she went and took that visit. And I wish more people would. It's a very special country.
I just
Very-
read a book called Africa Town about the last slave ship to travel from Africa to the Mobile, Alabama area, where I spent part of my junior high years. And then we moved to Pensacola, Florida, right across the Alabama line. And that was about a 45, 50-minute drive from Mobile to Pensacola. And I never was aware of Africa Town.
right.
The slaves that were freed established this town there called Africa Town. And to this day, it still exists. And I knew nothing about this.
Wow.
Was
That's so
Ghana involved in the slave trade?
Yes, yes. And the slave dungeons are actually still there,
That's where
still intact.
the vice president went, because I think she's descended from enslaved people as well in
Yes,
Jamaica.
yes. And everybody, I mean, that's part of the reason why I encourage everybody to go there. But I mean, obviously, because the country is phenomenal. But yes, the slave dungeons are still there and they're still intact. And it's something you can't describe when you're there. It's the feeling. It's the feeling. So I think especially every American, but I think everybody should visit so that they can understand the depth and the gravity of what took place. Absolutely.
Someone said that slavery was America's original sin. I don't know who that was, but it is a stain on our national fabric.
Yes.
And somewhere I also read that slaves built the White House and uh, the congressional uh, building, the Capitol.
Yeah.
So the history of the early days of the Republic is intertwined with that terrible period.
Absolutely. And so much more that we don't know of.
Oh, I know, I know.
More.
So let's leave that morbid topic and move to The Color Purple. When you auditioned, did you have to sing?
I did sing. Yes, I did. I sang not in the latter ones, in the earlier ones I sang, yes. In the latter ones I didn't. But it's interesting you would say that because they must have known I could sing because our first rehearsal was a voice rehearsal. It was our music rehearsal.
There
Yeah,
you go. Now,
yeah.
this is something that I think is going to come as a surprise to you. I was an entertainment reporter for a great part of my broadcasting career. And when the original Color Purple came out, I interviewed Oprah Winfrey.
Are you serious?
I am most serious.
How was that?
She is a remarkable woman.
Oh, she is.
Here's another fun fact. I won $100,000 on the Dick Clark pyramid, $100,000 pyramid.
Yes.
And Oprah did a show on game show winners. And the pyramid called me and asked if I would represent them. So I was on the Oprah Winfrey show being interviewed by her after I had interviewed her in The Color Purple.
And did you guys talk about that?
Of course.
Can I watch this somewhere? Is there a clip? Do you
I
have it?
don't I don't know. It might be on YouTube, but you could probably get it from her archives. It was 3 months before her show went national.
Oh, it
It
was
was
early,
it was
early.
only in Chicago when I was on her show.
Gosh.
But her show was so large and so well received in Chicago. And I'm not sure how that came about, but she has and has had a production company for years, which I'm sure you know. Her company, Harpo, is Oprah spelled backwards.
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
It's so cool. And I think it's so cool that the character's name, I was like, what is the fascination with Harpo? Because the character's name is Harpo, of course. And so I couldn't really understand, but
And it was so good to see that Whoopi Goldberg was in the cast of your movie because she played Celie in The Color Purple.
correct, correct.
It's a story that has withstood the test of time because when Alice Walker wrote the book, it just exploded. Have you met Alice?
No, but we were both at the premiere and I saw her and we all gave her a standing ovation at some point. Oprah obviously gave her a shout out in the audience. And so we all got the chance to give her a standing ovation, but I haven't met her personally. Oh my goodness.
Well, I tell you what, had I been at the premiere, I'm such a pushy person that I would have gone over and pulled her aside because what a thrill that would have been. I did not meet her, but I did get to interview Maya Angelou after I knew. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do my interview with you right after this. I have so many questions.
What was it like being on set for the first time?
Let me go back to that day. It was my birthday.
Oh, kidding.
My birthday. Yeah.
What a
The week,
great present.
oh my goodness. The best kind. I I was like overwhelmed because this is such a full circle moment for me in my life. I have been waiting to meet Oprah and work with her. I always knew it would come. And The Color Purple, the 1985 version, is one of my classics, like so many people, and one of my favorite movies. And so it's this kind of dance that you have to do in your own mind and emotions where I'm like, okay, and you see how I am. I'm very energetic. I'm like this all the time. So I'm like, I still want to show up in my full self, but also like, wow, just take some deep breaths. I would go in my
Mhm.
trailer and like gather my thoughts.
You don't
I'm
want to be
standing.
a fangirl.
I don't want to fangirl. I still want to be a professional, but I'm freaking out on the inside. I'm like crying every night, you know,
Who
and
wouldn't be?
oh, it's just,
She's
I mean,
such a commanding presence.
yeah, yeah. I was so grateful to meet everybody, to, be there, to be able to lend my talents to this historic film. I was very overwhelmed with gratitude. That's how my first day was.
You met her for the first time,
Yes,
and she gave you notes. Is that correct?
she did.
What was that like? And what did she tell you?
I'm still processing it. I still chew on it little by little. She talked to me about, she really poured into me. She was talking about how important the project is for her and how glad she was for all of us to be there. She told us that she had told us as a group earlier that, everyone, it's like all of our life purposes and everybody's journey has come together in this moment. And so she went into detail a little bit more about that with me personally. And she just gave me so many pleasantries. She really poured out. I find her to be very wise, but also very vulnerable and kind. And I think that's why we all latch onto her and, attach ourselves to her because that's how I found her to be. So yeah, she really poured out onto me and she said some such kind things. She gave me a lot of compliments and she thanked me for being there. And I'm like, wait, no, thank you. You're Oprah. Thank you. But she was so gracious. She was so wonderful.
Not bad for a billionaire.
You've got some great one liners. That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
The storyline in The Color Purple is so touching. And when I first heard that it was a musical adaptation from the original movie, which was itself a film adaptation from the book, I thought, now how is this going to work as a musical? Are they just going to break out in song? But it was very organic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I actually felt the same way. And it's so funny because I was listening to Talkback with the cast, and I remember Oprah said the same thing that she thought,
Really
yes, she was saying, I believe her exact words were, what is Celie going to be doing? Singing while she's sweeping? And she was. And I think that's brilliant. I mean, because I love the 1985 version so much, once I heard that they were going to Broadway, I was initially like, that's interesting. I don't know how that's going to happen. And then we all saw how it happened brilliantly. And so did all the Tonys. So coming to film, it was like, oh, wow, well, they did that so expertly on stage. I'm sure that with the right people, Blitz Bazawule included, our incredible director, I'm sure with the right people, they will transition this right onto the screen. And boy, didn't we.
Fantasia Barrino originated the role on Broadway.
She
So
did.
I'm so glad that they cast her in the movie because a lot of times actors who originate roles uh, in the theater are not cast in the movie.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
one Kathy Bates is an example because she was in Night Mother and Agnes of God and Crimes of the Heart and didn't wasn't cast in any of the movies.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that Fantasia got her
Oh,
more widespread audience than a lot of people don't necessarily have the wherewithal and the time to travel to New York and see a Broadway play. But they often see the movie, it's much more accessible.
yeah.
So it's good to know that that's what Fantasia got. It was like an attaboy, but in this case, it was an attagirl. I remember when she was on and won the American Idol. Uh, you also have dipped your toe rather immersively in uh, stage productions.
Mm,
So you're kind of a multi-hyphenate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love the stage. I love the stage. It's for any film actor, it's like your best take, you get one shot. So it really, for actors, I think that is just a true testament to your talent and your skill and your focus because it's you and it's the audience. And if you don't come out and deliver on that first singular take while you're standing on stage, that's what they're going to leave with and that's what they're going to remember. So I just feel like the stage is really, to me, it's like the through line of an actor. It's really like your best positioning and you give it all you got, and I love it. I love it. I love the you can feel the emotions from the audience immediately. You say something and they have a reaction and you can
You can
move,
feed off that.
feed off of them. Yeah, it's really a special relationship to have. So yes, I started in the theater. I love the theater. I can't wait to go back to the theater. And I've done so many black box performances, small theaters and larger
Right,
theaters,
right.
massive theaters. And so, I love being on stage and I'm looking forward to doing it again. Yeah.
So Wakanda Forever,
Oh, yes.
what an amazing what would you call franchise?
Oh, incredible.
What
Incredible.
was that like?
It was a dream. I mean, it's so hard to put these things into words. Like my first day there, I, pulled up. Of course, we do makeup and wardrobe and do all the things. But when I walked up, I walked onto the set and I walked into Wakanda. I walked into the world of Wakanda. All of the characters are there. Everyone is there. All the things. And similarly, it's just about taking deep breaths and making sure that you're staying present, also staying professional. I have lines I have to say. So making sure that I'm keeping my cool. But I left my home where I was sitting on the couch, and then I walked into Wakanda, which is like just a little bit shocking. You have to really catch your breath. But again, what a blessing. And it's just it's such an encouragement to know that also I belong there because I've been doing this for a long time. And to get a win like that, it's just a reminder that, like, no, you also deserve to be here. Yeah.
Wakanda Forever and Black Panther
Yes.
prior to it are both films that empower women. And we don't see that enough in the cinema.
Thank you for saying that. And that is correct. We need to see it more. We need to see it more.
Exactly.
And I'm very fortunate to be a part of stories that really talk about the will of the woman. And I believe in that. And I'm so proud to be a part of these stories that amplify that. Absolutely. And we need more and more and more and more and more.
Do you know if there's going to be another version of that franchise?
I don't. I wish I did. But if I did, I probably couldn't say it.
You could tell me, but then you'd have to kill me.
I have to tell you when we stop recording. No, but the truth is, I don't know. I wish I did. I would love the answer to that.
What are themes that you look for when you write a play?
Wow. So I take in a lot of content. My favorite thing to do is watch film and television. I do it all the time. And there are a lot of times where there's something I feel is really important that I don't hear being talked about. I'm not seeing, I'm not hearing. I think a lot of that has to do with, much like other writers, because of the circumstances I was in when I was growing up, there are a lot of things that speak to me that maybe wouldn't be as important to somebody else. They might want to watch it if it's up there, but it's not something that would drive them to write about it. And so when I'm creating something, it just has to come from a need for that conversation to be had on a larger scale. I wrote a film, The Womb, and it's about women and their choices surrounding reproduction. And that's because as we enter our
Boy, is
30s,
that not timely now. Mm.
thank you for saying that.
I mean, it just defies all logic. It really does.
Well, I I wasn't seeing or feeling like we were having the type of conversations that I was having in private with my friends and my sisters and my family members. And for women in their 30s, we all have these conversations with each other, but I wasn't seeing it the way that I wanted to talk about it and that we were talking about it. So I wrote it. And anything I've ever written, that's where it comes from. It's like, why isn't anyone talking about this? That's usually how it comes out of me. And then I write it.
Well, you can look and see a void, uh, and you know, I remember when I was coming of age, and I noticed that there were so many women, and I I phrased it like this, that they were women who lived in parentheses,
Hmm.
because it would be like Mr. and Mrs. John, parentheses, Elizabeth Smith.
You know
You know
what?
what I mean?
Oh, should I be taking notes? I'm not really sure what to do because you've said some things that are going to stick with me. That is so true. And it leads to such a large conversation.
It's not exactly, but it's borderline misogyny.
There are a lot of things dealing with not just marriage, but names and identity that I feel like I want to talk about, and I probably will at some point, so that we can have the larger conversation. But wow, living in parentheses, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, and it's true. Anybody who's lived in parentheses can attest to the fact that it's true.
There are so many trailblazers out there, but I think for contemporary um, discussions about this, Hillary Clinton comes to mind because it was almost, she was a little inartful when she was expressing things, like the whole thing about, I guess I could have stayed home and baked cookies and stood by my man like Tammy Wynette. I always call her Tammy Why Not. But anyway, there is a, yeah, and people are like, how dare she try to escape being under the auspices of her husband. I always thought, and this is true, I only voted for him because I thought of him something of a bozo. I voted for him because he was married to her,
Her.
and that says something. There is a joke. I'm going to see if I can tell this right.
Okay.
Bill and Hillary were driving from Arkansas to Washington,
Okay.
and they stopped to get gas at um, a filling station. And this guy, let's say his name was Bubba, came out and to fill their car up. And he goes, Hillary. And she goes, Bubba. And they're like, oh. And Bill says, wait a minute, you guys know each other? And she says, yeah, we go way back. And he says, you dated? And she says, yeah. And he says, do you mean to tell me that if you hadn't married me, that you would have been the wife of a filling station owner in Arkansas named Bubba? Have you heard this?
No, but I know where this is going. No, he would have been the president, right?
Ah, yes.
That's, yeah, he would have been the president. I know where this is
Yep.
going. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
There's an expression. My father was your dad in the military or
Yes.
diplomatic
He served in the
service?
Navy. Yes. Yes.
Well, my father was in the army.
Oh, well.
And there was an expression that it takes a man to make a colonel, but it takes a woman to make a general.
I
Because
don't
it
get it.
was
Explain it
the
to me.
wife behind the man that made him who he was.
Ah, to make the gym. Okay. I see. I see.
Now,
Thank you.
here's something that surprised me. I was like, what?
Okay.
The 21-day ex-boyfriend cleanse?
Yes.
Where the hell did that come from?
I'm so glad you asked. So, so I've always been like, my friends all call me their therapist. I don't know why. I don't know how I got this title. I guess I would call myself a very good listener. I listen to people and I don't give them advice or judge them unless they ask, then I'll tell them my thoughts. So through
You're
college,
entitled to my opinion.
sorry, what was that?
You're entitled to my opinion.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So when I mean, in high school as well, but really it got thick in college. It was like people were going through breakups and they would come to me to talk about it. And it just kept happening over and over again. So one of my girlfriends in particular, who I'm very close to, she was going through a rough breakup, a rough one. She was like, she wouldn't go to class, she wasn't eating, she was just completely heartbroken. And I kept hearing, they always say it takes 21 days to create a habit or to break a habit,
I
either of
didn't
them.
know that.
That's what they say. I don't actually know how true it is, but psychologically they say if you do something for 21 days, it's going to create a habit in you. And I had heard that a couple of times, and so I said, okay, with this one friend in particular, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write down something that we're going to do together every day, or something you can think about, just anything that's not him. We
Oh,
can do it together.
that's great. I wish I had known you back in the day.
Yeah, I wanted to help.
Codependent party of one, your table is.
Yeah, I wanted to help her, and I wasn't hurting. So I'm like, well, I can see clearly. Let's go work out together. Let's go to a paint class. So every day we did something different, and I would write it down and send it to her in an email every day. This is what we're going to do tomorrow. This is what we're going to do. And
Cool.
so we did that for a while. And afterwards, she was like, oh, I feel better. And then we had another friend who was going through a breakup. And she's like, hey, you did this thing with her. Come do it with me too. So then I did it with her. And then another one and another one and another one. And it just kind of snowballed. And then they were giving my number to their friends, and people I didn't know were calling me. And I was like, this is starting to be a lot. And so my friends were begging me, please write this down and give it to people because this could help somebody you don't know. And I thought it was strange because I think I put myself in boxes too. I think we all do. And so around that time, I was like, no, I'm an actor. I'm not an author. I'm an actor. But I mean, I was like, well, I can self-publish it and I can put it into the world and let's just see what happens. And wow, I mean,
What's the complete title?
the 21-day ex-boyfriend cleanse.
Then I
Breaking up
got
is
it
hard to
right.
do. Yeah, breaking
I
up is
got
hard
it.
to do because
Oh,
it's true.
breaking up is hard to, isn't
Breaking
that
up
the
is hard to
truth?
do. It is. And because it's us going through it, there are a lot of times where we can't see it clearly. And so I feel like if there is someone, and they're very simple things. If you read the book, you'll see it's not, I'm pulling from things that I think we probably do regularly anyway. It's just when you're in that space, everything gets so cloudy and you can't think. And so it was my opportunity to be able to help somebody else who is heartbroken in their time of need. Hey, here's an actual guide. Once you get to the point where you're like, man, I'm tired of crying, or like, I need some help or something, then you can pick up this little booklet, start at day one, and go through it. And I say at the end of the book, if you feel like this has resonated with you or it's helped you in any way, start over again, because then you can just repeat it. There's a journal in the back, so you can journal your thoughts.
Oh,
It's very simple. And it's like, just try to get out of your mind and find a different place in your heart where that person doesn't necessarily exist. And then, you just kind of move through it. It's not about going over the feeling, it's just figuring out a way to move through it that agrees with you. I'm
oh, I
so
wish
glad
I
you asked me about that.
oh, I wish I'd had your book back in the day because I was in a 3-year relationship with a total
Oh, I'm so
hole. And
glad.
and it took me 5 years of therapy
Mm,
to find out why I was always attracted to men who were not good for me.
yeah.
That's what my therapist said. So your book is a short primer in how to get that man right out of your hair.
Get him out. Yeah, get him out. Yeah. And
Are
I
you familiar with South Pacific? There's a song, I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair.
Yes. Well, I know that lyric. That's so interesting.
I think
Okay.
it's South Pacific. But
Okay.
you were going to say something and I interrupted you.
Oh, I was going to say that I say this as well. I think in the book, maybe even on the back cover, that I was writing this very specifically for like my friends who were going through this, but it did not occur to me that it would resonate with other people. So I had a couple of my male friends who then came to me and said that they were going through breakups with women and had also read the book in private silence and could also glean from it. So in the book, I talk about he all the time, assuming someone is breaking up with a man. But I did
Right.
not think about the fact that it translates through heartbreak in general. That wasn't something I thought through, but yeah, I'm grateful for that. I mean, if I can be of any assistance to someone when they're in such a dark and hurtful time, then I would love to be.
And let's tell people that the book is available on Amazon.
That's correct. It
I
is.
found it there myself.
Oh,
It's
excellent.
in my reading list.
Oh,
All
please tell
right.
me about it when you're
Um,
done. Tell
I
me.
will. I
Yeah,
will. I've got your contact information, so I'll do that. We're BFFs now.
that's correct. That's correct.
Um, I always ask this at the end of an interview. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you wish I had, or anything that you'd like to share that comes to top of mind that we haven't discussed?
Yes. What is coming up next for me is very exciting.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that.
Yes, I'm thrilled. I am going to be recurring in a television show, Bad Monkey, next year with Vince Vaughn. And that is
Cool.
it's such a cool experience for me because I've been a huge fan of his forever. And so to be able to not only meet him, what a pleasant human being, but work with him it's such a highlight of my life. And I'm very excited about it.
I interviewed him for some comedy. He made several, and I can't remember which one it was now. He's very funny. Is this
Oh.
a comedy?
You know what's interesting? It is actually it's like a crime drama. But
What?
he I know. But because he is so funny, and even as I was reading the script, I was reading the script and laughing aloud. So I'm like, I know that's going to translate well on camera. I only had a few scenes with him, and my character is quite serious. We're talking about
What's your character
yes,
like?
thank you for asking. So Vince Vaughn is the lead in the show, and he has a partner that he works with. Without giving too much away, he has a partner that he works with who is a young Bahamian gentleman, and I play the gentleman's sister.
Oh,
Yes, I'm
okay.
his sister. And we have some familial struggles. And so every time I've appeared on camera, it's usually to address that. And so my scenes are a little bit more serious, but I think people will really identify because we're talking about family and some family struggles. But the scene that I had with him and what I saw of him was funny and it was great. So I'm very curious. I actually can't wait to see it because I'm very curious to see how the comedy is going to play in with the subject matter. But yes, it's a crime show.
So
Like what can
it
I
would
say?
be sort of a borderline dramedy,
I think so. I think so. I think that's
more drama with just a little bit of comedic touch.
I think the comedy is just going to be natural because it's him. Yeah. And the script is they've got their punchlines for sure.
And Bad Monkey refers to
I'm sorry.
what does Bad Monkey refer
Oh,
to?
there's a monkey in the show.
No, no. And he's bad?
And he's bad. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a
Yes.
good
My
note to
co-star is a
end
monkey.
on.
Yeah.
So with that, Abba, thank you so
Oh,
much for being with me today.
thank you. This has been so pleasant. I've really enjoyed chatting with you today.